Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are all doing really well. For today's video, I actually wanted to look at a phenomenon that recently has become so loud that it's quite literally impossible to ignore. If you've been on the internet in the past week, or you looked at the title of this video before clicking it, then you would know that the phenomenon I'm talking about is this rising trend of influencers beating the shit out of each other in a boxing ring for some reason. I do want to make a very quick disclaimer here. I know jack shit about boxing. Like, if you're looking for a technical analysis of the fighting, I am quite literally the last person you should ask. Go ask The Rock, I don't know. All we're gonna be doing today is just some harmless exploring of the general chaos. So I think we should dive in. Before we start today's video though, I did want to give a quick shout out to HelloFresh, who sponsored today's video. If you haven't heard of them before, HelloFresh is America's #1 meal kit that just makes cooking from home a lot more fun, easy, and affordable. They've got tons of different options for meals, whether that's pescatarian, vegetarian, low calorie, or carb smart, to fit any kind of dietary preferences you have. Plus every recipe is packed with fresh produce sourced directly from farmers. It's also great for saving time. You can cook and get dinner on the table in just about 30 minutes, or even 20 with their quick and easy options. And since their meals have pre-portioned ingredients, not only is there less prep, but there's also less wasted food. I'm not the kind of person who can like open a fridge, see a bunch of random ingredients, and then know what to make. So I'm just a really big fan of this system of having different recipes that I can follow, and I have all the things that I need to make it. So I'm not just making the same thing over and over and over again, and I'm also not burning anything, which is also very nice. Also, really quick note, my mom was very excited to show you all this tomato cutting trick, which I'm sure you all have probably seen before, but she was really excited about it. They're also really flexible, so if you want to skip a week or change your food preferences or delivery day, all you have to do is go onto their website and change it. So if you want to check out HelloFresh for yourself, go to hellofresh.com and use code Aonso12 to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. That's code Aonso12 on hellofresh.com to get 12 free meals, including free shipping. Thanks again to HelloFresh for sponsoring today's video. If you're interested, I would definitely check it out in the link in the description box. But otherwise, let's get into the video. If we're talking about influencer boxing, I think the best place to start is probably the first biggest influencer versus influencer boxing fight, which was actually between Logan Paul and Ksi. Before I actually started researching for this video, I thought this was the first time influencers had ever fought each other before, but it turns out that how this one started is Ksi had actually fought a different YouTuber a few months earlier named Joe Weller, and after he won that fight, he said this.
If any YouTuber wants it, you can come get it. Jake Paul, Logan Paul, any of the Pauls, I don't care, bring it.
Naturally, the Paul brothers did respond, as they do, and Logan Paul and Ksi agreed that they were gonna beat the shit out of each other in a boxing ring. Tastefully. There was a ton of internet beef leading up to this fight, as expected. At one point, Jake Paul had threatened that his dad was going to beat up Ksi's dad for some odd reason, but then that ended up snowballing into Jake Paul deciding he was gonna fight Ksi's younger brother, Deji, as like a pre-fight before the big fight. So this all kind of just turned into like a sad version of Family Feud. The fight itself got lots of promo and coverage because everyone involved had a massive fan base and also a massive ego. So tons of obnoxious activity and more than enough drama material that was as marketable as it was completely ridiculous. Basically everything that could have been checked off in this situation was checked off. Cringy diss tracks.
We're done, I think I'm done. Bing. I don't deal with bullshit in your DNA.
Check. Twitter rampages. Also check. Awkward fights at press conferences? I can't believe you'd even have to ask.
I got you something, Deji, for those man movies. Looks like you grew a little dick today, but it's a little one.
Look him in his eyes. Look him in his eyes, champ.
Are they about to kiss right now? And as a lot of people had expected, the fight did do well. And even me going in for researching this video, knowing that the fight was successful, I was still shocked at just how well this thing did. If we're talking about YouTube views, they were able to get over 63 million views on their pre-fight content, not including the over 30 million views on the trailer content. And then on top of that, they got another over 100 million views on their diss tracks. Obviously, because everyone involved in this was a YouTuber, YouTube views were gonna be important, especially considering it was streamed on YouTube as well. But even beyond the YouTube views, they were able to get $3.5 million from ticket sales, and over 2.25 million people watched this thing live. Apparently 1 million of those people had actually watched it legally by paying for YouTube's $10 pay-per-view live stream, and then the rest of them watched it illegally on Twitch. But regardless of however people watched it, it was clear this thing did really well. It was the largest non-professional boxing match of all time, and it was between two YouTubers. KSI did end up winning the first one, by the way, if you're curious, but I think regardless of whoever ended up winning that fight, because the first one was so successful, it was practically a given there was going to be a rematch. This time around though, they decided they weren't going to live stream it on YouTube, but instead chose a platform called DAZN, which apparently was a move to kind of like stop illegal restreaming. And if you want to get an idea of how much it would have cost you to watch this thing legally back then, your options were either a $20 monthly subscription or a $100 annual subscription just to watch one fight. And in terms of how much KSI and Logan Paul made, apparently this is like an estimated number. I couldn't really find anything concrete, but the minimum they walked away with was $900,000. And apparently that's like a super low minimum. Like they probably walked away with a hell of a lot more. KSI also won that one, by the way. But I think that the KSI and Logan Paul fight is a lot more important beyond like who ended up winning and like the drama within the actual fight and everything leading up to the fight itself. Mainly because I feel like it's opened the eyes of a lot of influencers to a new way that they can make a hell of a lot of money. Yes, it was cringy and insufferable to watch online from afar, but influencers do cringy and insufferable shit for money all the time. So it's not really that surprising that, of all people, Jake Paul took his win against Deji from the first fight and just this never-ending desire for more money and attention and ran with it. After Deji, he fought YouTuber Aonso Gibb, NBA player Nate Robinson, and most recently, Ben Askren, a former Blader MMA fighter. I have no idea what that means, I'm just gonna be honest. Blader sounds like a fan base for Bella Thorne. To me at least. But more importantly, Jake Paul did win all of these fights. I feel like I should mention, by the way, that in between all of these fights and wins, Jake Paul has been berating this guy named Conor McGregor to fight him, who, from what I can understand, is a very good boxer and a very scary man.
My team sent you a $50 million offer this morning. $50 million cash, proof of funds, the biggest fight offer you've ever been offered, but you're scared to fight me, Conor. You're ducking me because you don't want to lose to a fucking YouTuber.
That's actually so crazy, Jake Paul, because we actually sent you an invoice last week on behalf of all of the children that you've scanned throughout your entire career. As you can see, very legit, big fun letters, but you haven't responded yet either. Out of all the fights though, the one that I want to talk about the most is the one that just happened last week. And it's not just because it's the most recent one, but also because it's the only fight that Jake Paul has been in that's managed to take over my entire newsfeed. Usually whenever Jake Paul would be in some sort of fight, there'd be maybe like 1 or 2 tweets on my timeline, maybe an Instagram video in passing that would show up, but for some reason, this event was everywhere. But as I started to look into it more, I did start to get it, because some of the clips that came out of this event are genuinely unbelievable. Like, I can't wrap my head around the reality that this event lives in. For starters, this Jake Paul boxing event had Snoop Dogg, Sweetie, Doja Cat, Diplo, the Black Keys, and Justin Bieber all performing at it. Some of the performances were actually really good. And then others, I think, were kind of aware of the fact that they were performing at a Jake Paul event. Hence Justin Bieber forgetting that he kind of had to perform the rest of his set before he could get the fuck out of there.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. We the band, baby. Oh, wait. Oh, shit.
I cannot stress enough how much every single celebrity that was caught on camera at this event looked like they were being held hostage.
We know what it's going. Yeah, we're going now. So obviously, guys, this is a huge mix of combat.
Pete Davidson was also the host for this event, which I think was a very interesting choice, but part of his hosting duties were that he had to conduct these interviews in their locker room for both the fighters, and they were just about as uncomfortable to watch as you'd expect. You know what, actually, maybe even more.
Hey, yo.
How you feeling, man? How you feeling?
Good, I'm just like calm, ready to explode. Like a nuclear atom.
I was actually only gonna include this one clip in the video, but the version of Jake Paul in this interview is so unlike any other footage of him online that It's almost jarring. Like, you cannot tell me that the Jake Paul we're about to watch answer the question, what's your favorite color, is the same one we've seen make a profession out of being the most obnoxious person on the internet.
We'll say it on 3.
It's his too. Yeah, I think it's yellow. No?
No.
Money?
No. Blue.
Blue?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I have to admit that while this event in some areas was a bit of a shit show, there were 2 distinct moments that made having this event completely worth it. And you might be thinking, Casey, why would 2 moments be worth having that big of an event? And I would argue any Jake Paul event producing more than 1 good moment is a win in my book. My first favorite moment is definitely between Pete Davidson, Diplo, and Snoop Dogg, which their interaction produced this lovely piece of content.
Dude, if Diplo fucks my mom, I think I win Triller.
Yeah.
Is that how you win the Triller?
I mean, I could be, it'd be kind of weird. I could get engaged.
I'd be down for it because you seem like a really cool dude.
I'd be a good dad too, man. I'm telling you right now.
You would, man.
I'm really looking for that. So it's like
There is just something so iconic about trying to physically shimmy away a conversation topic. Like, I love it. My favorite Jake Paul clip, though, probably has to be the one where someone is filming him doing some sort of mobility training, Pilates, yoga thing. They look like they're acting out Tetris for a game of charades. What the fuck is this? Then again, this is a lot better than what I was imagining. Like, if you asked me what I thought Jake Paul's pre-fight routine was, I'm picturing him in his locker room snorting lines of pre-workout. Creatine! When it comes to the actual fight, though, basically all that happened was Jake hit Ben fell down, fight's over, that's what you paid for. You're welcome. And I'm not joking here. It was literally over within the first round. And since Jake won, we were given this lovely clip. This is genuinely terrifying. Naturally, because Jake won, a lot of people were pissed off about this, but specifically boxing fans. Most of this anger is actually turned into this giant conspiracy that maybe Ben had been paid by Jake to lose on purpose, and this is mainly based off footage of Ben after the fight where he doesn't look that hurt, and some people have pulled up footage of him in previous fights where it looks like he took similar hits and was able to continue, versus with Jake, he just like fell and lost. But I definitely don't know enough about this to have an opinion, so I'm just gonna put it out there in the abyss, just so you guys know it's there. But if we're ignoring the controversy and we're just focusing on the stats, Jake Paul is doing good at boxing so far. I'm not gonna lie, at first I definitely thought that the YouTuber to boxer pivot was super weird and random, and definitely very unique. It was not covered in my What Happens to YouTubers When They Expire video, that's for sure. But the more that I thought about it, it does kind of make sense if you look at what Jake Paul has been doing recently. After the revival of Team 10 failed, it looks like he has a track record of trying to make things he did at his peak level of fame his new career. I mean, trying to revive Team 10 is an example in itself, but it's also pretty obvious that he tried to pursue a rapping career. I guess this was based off the success of its Everyday Bro, but once it was clear that the hype for that song and other releases was attached to his level of fame on YouTube, which he's clearly trying to deviate from, the next thing to try that he succeeded at while at peak relevancy was boxing, considering his experience during the KSI versus Logan Paul fight. So it seems random at first, but when you look at it, it's not really that shocking of a move if he's trying to get away from YouTube. I think he just ultimately realized that he wasn't able to outdo himself at doing awful things to get views and attention anymore. So why not just give that crown to Bryce Hall and enter a sport where that kind of hot-headed attitude and drama is kind of encouraged? I mean, really, if we're comparing theatrics here, spot the difference. There is no difference. But looking at the general success of KSI and Logan Paul's whole fighting saga and Jake Paul's current boxing career, it's very obvious that they've inspired a hell of a lot of influencers to follow in their footsteps, which unfortunately led to the production of this thing. YouTubers versus TikTokers. Battle of the platforms. Hooray! I'm gonna be honest here. I don't recognize anyone in this photo except for the people that are so problematic that they've made it to the mainstream news, or they're so bad at acting that I've made a video on them before.
I read lots of things. Novels, magazines, instruction manuals.
And I don't even mean that as a jab, I just mean I don't even think I'm on the right corners of the internet to be recommended their content. But this does look like a promo photo for a frat party that I would not want to be caught within 100 feet of. But what kills me the most about this photo is that every single person in it is looking at the camera except Deji. And he looks so defeated.
When is it my turn to be happy?
I actually think that's what's making me so uncomfortable looking at it, because I have 11 out of 12 people in this photo staring at me either as if they want to kill me or they look like they're about to shit their pants. I do think though that half-assed events like these really remind me that even though the Pauls are insufferable, they really know how to promote and market things. Like for example, let's look at the way that these fights were set up in comparison to each other. While KSI versus Logan Paul at the surface level started after KSI called him out after his fight with Joe Weller, it's more likely they arranged for all of that to happen because it's just a better way to start a story. KSI calling out the Paul brothers to fight and they accept sounds a hell of a lot better than KSI and Logan Paul realize they can make money off of fighting each other, so they're gonna fight each other. It just makes the rest of the lead up, like the Twitter fights, response videos, conference arguments, and diss tracks, a lot more believable, and for the fans watching it all go down, it's just more exciting. They know money's involved, but it's not what they think the fight is all about. But when you look at the Battle of the Platforms though, from the jump they basically show everyone that it's just a matter of Austin Mcbroom berating Bryce Hall over text, begging him to fight him, and it just doesn't sound as good. It's definitely a small detail in the grand scheme of things, but it does make it feel more real for the people who are in it, like the fans who are like enjoying the drama and the lead up to the fight. This Battle of the Platforms thing just seems all the more transparent that they're just trying to make money. And that's not to say that Logan Paul and KSI weren't fighting for money, but they just hid it a little better. Overall, it was just a very weird way to set it up in my opinion, but beyond that, it seems like it's getting the typical like influencer promo starter pack treatment with a Hollywood Fix video that apparently has Austin Mcbroom from the Ace family savagely calling out Bryce Hall over $5 million boxing match.
A lot of people keep asking, why him, right?
Right, why?
And to be honest, like, I really just don't like the kid.
When it comes to this fight though, I'm actually pretty interested to see how it turns out in terms of success. I think on the surface, people would assume it'll do well because everybody involved has a big platform, so similar to how Logan Paul and KSI was a no-brainer because they both had big fan bases. But I think there's a slight difference. The main thing that at least I notice is that half of the people that are involved have predominantly young female fan bases. And that's not to say that young females can't like boxing. Of course there are young females who like boxing. But the majority of young females who like boxing isn't as strong as the majority of young guys who like boxing. So I guess my main question is, who is this fight exactly for? And maybe I'm just underestimating the amount of people that like boxing who follow these TikTokers. I don't know, maybe I'm just super out of the loop, but that's just kind of like the first thing that at least I think of. I'd honestly like to hear your guys' thoughts about it, especially if you're like into boxing and you're in that culture and what you think about the whole like influencers turning into boxing arc that we're seeing. And I'd also like to hear where you guys think this whole thing is headed. In my personal opinion, I think that it's just gonna get bigger and bigger with more influencers joining into it as it just continues to make people more money. But then once it stops being profitable, I'm sure it'll just fall off. Definitely share your thoughts down below if you want to. And if you enjoyed the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps me out. You can also turn my post notifications on if you want to be updated every single time I upload a video. You can also follow me on Twitch where I live stream every single week. It's a lot of fun in my opinion. And you can also follow me outside of YouTube on Twitter and Instagram, which are both Ksi Aonso. But other than that, I think that's about it, and I'll see you guys in the next one.